Welcome to Braaains, a podcast exploring the inner workings of our brains, mental health, and disabilities, and how film and television portray them. Hosted by me, writer-director Heather Taylor.
And by me, film and television editor Sarah Taylor. Before we begin, we want to acknowledge that the lands from which we recorded this podcast and from where you are listening to are part of territories that have long served as a gathering place for diverse Indigenous peoples. And we are thankful as guests on this land to be able to live, work, and gather here together. We continue to learn about the history that came before us and the impact it has on the present, and we encourage you to do the same.
On today's episode, we spoke with veteran Filipinx-American filmmakers and LGBTQIA+ activist Desireena Almoradie and Barbara Malaran about their new film, Because of You, A History of Kilawan Kolektibo.
This doc is the first archival look at a previously uncovered era of 90s queer activism amongst a group of Filipinx activists and artists that started in New York City and rippled across the US and Canada.
In this conversation, we discuss the history of this film's making, memory, forgiveness, finding joy in community, and the complications that live alongside any group fighting for change.
A quick reminder to our listeners that this interview should not be taken as medical advice, and it is for informational purposes only. Because everyone's brain is different, please consult your healthcare professional if you have any questions. Welcome, Barb and Des, to Braaains. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
One of the first things we like to do is just for you to tell us about yourselves and what you do. And I'm going to say, let's start with Barb.
So I do creative work at this point, working a lot of storytelling, thanks to the inspiration of the film and the partnership here with Des. I am currently working to help collect stories for oral histories from folks from different communities, as well as, working with animals such as chickens.
And I just want the audience to know that there are chickens in the background of Barb's area, and so if you hear them, you are in fact hearing a chicken.
I'm Desireena Almoradie. Most people call me Des. It's easier. I use she, they pronouns. And I'm up in Washington Heights and upstate New York City. And I live at home in Washington Heights with my dog and my child, who's going to be 7 in November, and my partner. And for a living, I work as a video producer for a cooperative called Time of Day. We work exclusively with progressive organizations, unions, educational institutions, and nonprofits. And on the side, I make films for myself and for others who might enjoy it.
Lovely. Well, we enjoyed your film.
Yes.
We're here to talk about today. So
you recently made the archival documentary Because of You. So tell us, what is it about and what inspired you to make it?
So the film is about an organization that started in the 90s called Kilawin Kolektibo. Barb and I were founding members, and throughout the life of the group, we were always with a video camera. That was the time of high 8, mini DV. People had access to, semi-pro equipment, and we were learning how to be filmmakers. And we kept all this footage. We never threw them out. And the result is this film over 30 years later.
You've had all this footage for 30 years, but why now?
Time moves onward, time moves forward. And, with time comes a reckoning of memories in terms of things to explore that, need some platform to address. For the both of us, we've had different motivations to, bring life back to our different video footage, our collection of videos. But I have to say that through the pandemic, there was a roundtable talk of these organizations that used to march in New York City, and we marched alongside with our partner orgs such as Salga and with Archipelago, right, other people of color, organizations. And, we just wanted to find a way to reconnect during the time of COVID. And with that, we have a photo archivist and one of our other founding members, Pandai Banali, who had, kind of mentioned to bring us together in collaboration with our different stories. And I have to say that, with the need for reconnecting with communities, there was an ask to bring the story back of Kilawin. And with that, Des was on this call to kind of further the rest of the story.
Yeah, there was, during the pandemic, people really wanted to connect with each other. We couldn't see each other in person. And Filipino-American National History, FANHS.
Filipino-American National Historic Society. FANHS.
Historical Society. There you go. The New York chapter was doing a Zoom about New York City Fil-Am activist history. And someone said, well, you should talk to Kilawin. They were part of this whole history. And then, as they say, history, we made history again. So that, during the Zoom, there was so much reaction on the chat. Like, people were really amazed about this history. No one had heard about us before. No one knew about us. And from that reaction, I just kind of thought there's definitely a story here. There's definitely a need to be telling this hidden queer Filipinx history. Because, people think that they're alone. People think, I have to figure out how to be queer and how to be Filipino. No one else has done it before. And it's absolutely not true. I mean, even before us, there were people doing this work. So,
can you tell us a little bit about how your group started and why you started? I think you kind of said a little bit of now, but back when it originally started and you started documenting.
Yeah, we came out of several other groups. A core of us came from Kambal sa Lusog, which was a gay and lesbian group that was started by, generation a little older than us. My brother was part of it. And when I was coming out, I started to going to their meetings. And there were like only one or two of us in terms of women, there were only one or two women. And, we started to figure out that queer women have their own issues outside of the gay male, purview. And then we also wanted to be a little more political in our focus. Kambal was very social. It was all about having fun, getting together. So a group of us also joined Gabriela Network, which was specifically anti-imperialist, feminist. It was a network of groups that came from the Philippines, and there's a network all over the world. But even there, we didn't really find a home for our queer issues. So we figured we really needed to start our own group so that we can really focus on what we wanted and the kind of activism we wanted to do.
I loved how the film was set up like a journey from like this idea of love. Like when you start a group, everyone's like, this is the best ever. And then from like hate or like, it literally said, I love you, I hate you. These are the sections. And the last one is I forgive you. But I think what was amazing, and just at the beginning too, like joy feels so prevalent throughout. And why was it important for you to capture and share the joy found within Kilawin and beyond?
It's sort of like falling in love, right? I mean, with this, what was pretty significant, and after doing the film, I'm still trying to find the words to tell the story and to continue giving life to it. It's pretty amazing to seek out community love. I think back then the world was very different. It wasn't something where we were surfing online, on our phone, right? We literally had to step out and look for connections and also, random connections, missed calls, and, trying to chase this joy. And joy is complicated, right? I mean, you can't have joy without pain. You can't have joy without loss and then gaining and building resilience. And when you build resilience, I find that there are ways to appreciate that process. But, joy is not for everyone as well.
Oh, I just want to sit with that. That was lovely. I like that a lot.
I feel like you've been listening to my therapy session that I've been having with my therapist. Yep. I have a problem with accepting joy.
There's such a thing as too much joy, right? Like sometimes you have to close the door and have some quiet.
I'm going to use that. I'm telling her.
It's time to have some quiet. No more joy.
I have pages in front of me of all the things I wrote down. I love the poems. I loved so much of your film. But I think like you mentioned it, kind of alluded to earlier, that film is about memory as well. And I was so struck by the opening of the third section. That was this mythology of myself is dying. So I'm here calling time. Oh my goodness. It really resonated with me. Like, I think as I age as well, and I look back at my past self, I think like that's why I think it will hit so many people, this idea of like what you were before, what you are now, and how interconnected they are, but also how different they are. So how did you approach telling a story about this specific place and period of time? And how did your own memories of that time bump up against what you captured?
In the beginning, we came up with this device of writing tone poems. And in the beginning, I was the one writing them, and I was the one voicing these memories, these kind of images, or like, impressionistic images of what it was like to be there. And then at some point I said, Barb, you need to step up now and say your side of the story. It's interesting that she doesn't really talk until the third act, right? When things are in the present and there's a reflection of what has happened. And, like it's almost like Barb found their voice in the third act. And yeah, you're right. They're reflecting on what happened in the past, but also what happened during the making of the film. There really was a very specific coming together of the two of us, because we had a big falling out. We hadn't been talking, for decades, and we came back together to make this film. So the film not just doesn't just chronicle the group, it chronicles our relationship very specifically, and that's how we wanted to tell the story. So it's a love affair with a group, but also with each other. Obviously platonic, but like it was a major relationship that was ruptured and repaired. And I'll let them speak for themselves.
I didn't know until it happened that rifts in adult friendships really devastating. It's going to just get that pause there. And also, why can't things still be the same? Like, this mythology of like, I'm going to be doing this forever. This is me until like, I know me until I die. And I feel like there is some truth to something I've heard a long time ago, that like the voice of experience is making mistakes, is learning from it, is changing, and also kind of picking yourself up when you fail, like and it's not necessarily fail, it's sort of like a redirection. But there's something, I don't know whether it's just in my personality, but or a generation, but there's something kind of really fatalistic about aging. And in my life, and I think it might be for this generation, like I lived through songs and music and textures, like that was all that was kind of informing like my direction. When I was a teenager, I was thinking I'm going to be in a new wave synth pop band. I'm going to play keyboards for like the rest of my life, and that's like joy and nothing else. But at the same time, when I found my joy with this community, with Kilawin, and marching, and it felt like for me like Christmas. I'm like, wow, let's just open up all the presents every year. We're going to be just celebrating, and like we found our pinnacle. Like there's nothing else to fight for. And foolish me, is just not knowing, and I needed to learn that there is so much more to fight for out in the world, other than why did we come here marching. It's not just to just kind of celebrate, hey, now I'm out, like goodbye everybody. It's sort of like there are reasons why we fight for visibility. And especially now that when so much is at stake, we don't want to go back to the fact that we need to fight to be visible. And so with the memory, it fights against, like what is actually happening now, and kind of like this dissonance of like, well, my heart is over here, my mind is over there. This is the world that we're living in now. Has it really changed? So much has changed and so much hasn't at the same time. And so that's kind of like the pain about this mythology, is that it just kind of does, it just stops. It's sort of like, I kind of was writing about this. It's sort of like I found myself coming into my story and I was like dying many times. I'm like missing the chance to like really tell that story. And without telling myself that story, like, then what was it even worth it? You know? And I believe that like when we don't articulate what has happened, our bodies keep living the sensations and we crave it. And when we don't address it, we cannot release. We cannot find a way to move through and still like hold on to that sensation. Says, okay, I will still have that joy and I can continue. Versus like, I need to keep chasing that.
That was a line in the film where you did say like you thought that this. I don't know if you used the word joy, but I thought that this would last forever. Like what this was will last forever. And that like super resonated with me and like circumstances that were happening in my life now. And I'm like, yeah, I thought something was going to last forever and it didn't. And then like how you work through that. So like it just, I think these ideas in the film will resonate with so many people, even though it was very specific to your story and what you were fighting for and living through.
But you know what? I didn't even think this was a story. That's the thing that boggles me, that we made this film that resonates with so much of the human condition. That still, like, I believe that, was this even a story? Did we really live this? And a lot of us, we're still living through our story.
Yeah. Well, and I think the way you pieced your film together using the archival and having and like I felt like I was in the 90s again. Like I could feel like I was there because of the material you used to make your film. And like as a filmmaker, the techniques used were like, I remember playing and doing that too. And like, so it was just like very nostalgic, as well as 100% telling the story of you and your group. And I felt like I understood something I didn't know. Well, I learned so much by watching your film that I didn't know before. So anyway, it's definitely a story and it's wonderful.
How do you think making this film helped with your own mental health and your sense of belonging?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was really about the forgiveness part. When I turned 50, I kind of had a personal reckoning with people that I hadn't forgiven, people that I thought had wronged me, and then people that I had wronged. So I started on that journey with my previous film and, kind of making a reconciliation with some folks in my life. And, again, with COVID happening and with that presentation that I did for Fonz, I thought it was an opportune moment to kind of repair that rift with Barb. And, through Panday Banale, who was always like kind of trying to get us to reconnect. They're the archivist of the group. They're an amazing photographer. Their photography is all over the film. When I said we should definitely do a documentary, they were like, well, Barb has all this footage. You guys need to get together. And yeah, it's really about aging, realizing the mistakes that you made, understanding that you can still fix it, in a way that you couldn't when you were younger, because you just had so much pride and you wanted to, you were so angry. It really needed time to fix itself. Yeah, I mean, I think we've all been through a lot of therapy. We've all decided that like holding on to to anger is not the most healthy way of living your life, you know? Nothing is so important that you get to hold on to that anger. You're not really hurting anyone but yourself, you know? So, you know, it's about letting go and, you know, being able to breathe.
It's reconnected me back to my life today. Like, I feel that I'm present, and I'm coming into my value and really leaning to learn that you know somewhere I matter in this world. I'm not just existing, warming a seat. And I think about folks who are in that space in their lives and many years of just warming a seat and, you know, not looking at their stories or trying to just tell that story. Maybe it was painful for them, or coming to terms with like what happened to them. You know, it could be joy bonding, it could be trauma bonding, but at the same time, and just existing and thriving is the difference, with, you know, completing the film.
What would you, both of you, want viewers to take away from this film?
You know, what we've learned traveling with the film is that really people see themselves in the film, you know, and it's always surprising to us how much people relate to what's happening in the film. You know, when we showed it last year to a theater full of young Filipinx activists, and they were like yelling at the screen, laughing, and like, you know, interacting with the film as it played. And, you know, afterwards, there was just such an energy, like a palpable energy of like, oh my God, we're going through that right now. And how do we navigate, you know, the little, you know, everyone's feeling upset and like everyone's having these little fights, and how do we navigate? And, you know, it's funny because obviously we don't have the answers, but like, you know, the fact that they recognize that people have gone through this before is really like what, you know, what a lot of people are taking away from the film. It's, you know, there's a community of people before you that have gone through this, that have struggled to be seen, that have struggled through all these, you know, all these horrible things, you know, in society, and they've, you know, they've managed to become stronger. um, you know, like, I think what what doesn't usually get talked about, you know, when you find a community, is sometimes the community doesn't last, and, you know, people get mad at each other, and that actually is part of being a human, right? Like, you cannot avoid conflict. But how do you deal with conflict? How do you make it so that, you know, that doesn't consume your life, and that you don't hold a grudge for like 30, 40 years and not talk to people ever again? You know, it's like nothing is that important that you can't repair a relationship. And, you know, that's what the message of the film is. Like, you know, you can move forward and, you know, have a reconciliation, and things can be better.
Yeah, that's why it's so important to document your story. Like, no matter where you live or when you lived, you know, you just need to see that possibility of yourself in the future. And with that, you know, we're streaming this film right now with OTV, Open Television, worldwide. So a lot of audiences can experience this, you know, this film about human nature. We're so surprised that so many folks from different ages, intersectionally, generations, and different backgrounds have really connected with the film. I mean, we can offer, you know, personal host screenings. If folks go on the kilawinfilm.com, KILAWIN.com. Oh, sorry, kilawinfilm.com. So, and then there's also, we're distributed through Third World Newsreel for anyone who wants to host a screening with their communities, whether it's in the classroom or the community center or for festivals or private screenings. We're here to make all of that happen for a community and for love.
We have a theatrical screening August 7th in Jersey City. We're being paired we're pairing up with a one-person show with Lani Montreal, who's actually one of the people in the film. So that's going to be an amazing, fantastic night. It's part of Jersey City Pride celebrations.
Oh, fantastic.
Amazing.
I'll let everyone know. Is there any last thing that you want to say that you didn't have a chance to say?
We're very appreciative that you saw the importance of this film and how it relates to mental health, because that's a huge part of I think, that's an underlying theme of the film. It's not, it's very specifically addressed, but, it's something that's really important in terms of the through lines of the film. So thanks for seeing that.
No, thank you for making it and pulling this all together and carrying all the shoe boxes of tapes from apartment to apartment to apartment.
Yes.
I literally, there's so much that I'm going to be sitting with, I think, for a while. So thank you for sharing all of that.
Yeah, thank you.
Same here. Let's keep in touch.
Yes.
We have some really great stuff. If you want to follow up with, the film and reception, the audience reception, we should have a discussion or like an open call for that.
Yeah.
Oh,
that would be wonderful. Yeah.
Where can people find you and your work?
Well, I work for an org called Time of Day Media. So timeofdaymedia.com. That's where I do all my activist video productions, like specifically around progressive issues. And Barb's is working on a bunch of community.
Working with community. Yeah. So my website is coming up. Right now I'm coming up with love letters to your younger self workshops.
Oh my gosh.
Yes,
I love
that's
this.
why we should talk afterwards, because there is a really important point to close the heart, right?
Yeah.
You go through something in life, and if you don't find the words to tell the story, how do you love it? How do you love your younger self? We've done this through the different community centers, and 2 weeks ago I was over in a community center up in Seattle, and 60 people in the room read their love letters to themselves. It was a very emotional experience for everyone.
Yeah.
And it was like, just needed to be heard, just witness in the room, in person. It was real. And people want this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, I want to take this and share it with each other, because it's not just a happening. It's our present of presence that we need in the world right now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I'm excited to follow and learn more. Also, are your chickens available for a little cameo, or have they run away?
They have run away.
Sounds like they're having arguments.
Yeah, they're having arguments with the dogs, but I'll send their selfies to you.
Please do. I want to show everyone the chickens. Thank you both for taking time today. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to say that I am so happy that Matt, who's doing PR on this, reached out to us about this documentary. I think it was a wonderful conversation. That's kind of the beginning of conversation surrounding like this piece of work and what the filmmakers are going to be doing and like what's next for them and the life of this film and Kilawan Kolektibo. Like I didn't know about this specific group. And like you said, I felt so like in that moment. And like for those of you, when you watch it, like the archival footage, some of it's like a degrade is added on it and some of it is just degrading.
I think it is. Yeah. Some of it's degraded because the audio sounds a certain way. And if you remember the 90s and watched VHS or played with those camcorders, like which I did as a kid, those sounds of the tape wobbling and people try to recreate that now when we're like making film, and you just can't. And actually, it made me think of I did for a film I cut, Last Stop Video Rentals. I cut a trailer and then I burnt a DVD and then I dubbed it to VHS tape, and then I took that VHS tape, put it back into a DVD, and I brought it back into the computer so you could get that true VHS feel. It just feels so good. It just felt like it felt so nostalgic, and so I really enjoyed it.
I encourage everyone to go watch it on killamanfilm.com, and it'll also be in the show notes, so you can click the link there.
I loved the idea of joy and that with joy comes other emotions. And it's so, I don't know, something about this conversation and this film is hitting at a time that I needed to hear and see it. And I bet a lot of other people will feel the same way. So go watch.
There's this idea sometimes that like art is one thing, right? Or people are like, you need to get a certain thing out of it. And I literally had a conversation
I like
slash
revelation.
I was going to say argument, but it's not an argument. It's just like, it's a discussion. No, it's like a different perspective. It's like, because in a character, we're always going to see, you know, there'll be things about it that will reflect us. And so we'll see those things more than other things. Though both things can be true, they're not just the only thing. And so when you come at it from like, well, I see this part of it is me. And sometimes it's like, I don't like this part of this because I've changed this part of me. Or it's like, oh, I see this part of me and I feel more seen by it. You can have two different perspectives, but again, it's bringing something. And like you have something in your life that this film is bringing perspective to. I watched it and really gravitated towards certain things that were said that or certain beautiful phrases and this idea of like memory and holding. Like, I just love this one line. It's like, I see your faces. I hear your voices and experiences when I look in the mirror. Our love is a never ending farewell. I'm like, oh, like my heart just like, because it's true. Like every moment you have with someone, you don't know if you'll see them again.
Yeah. You don't know where things go and come and go and in and out. And that's just life. And then these ideas, I love that Barb kept saying like, tell your stories, document your stories. The future you needs to see this past you. And then the love letters to your young self. And I love what Barb's, I love the vibes, and I'm excited to see what else I can learn from Barb.
Yep. And also the chickens. Just,
I hope Barb sends us a picture. If she doesn't, I'm sorry you all can't see the chicken, but one of the chickens' name was Henny. And as I was preparing to hit record, I said, hey, Barb, something's in the background. It sounds kind of like, and then they go, yeah, that's my chicken. And I was like, oh my God, show me the chicken. So we met Henny. Henny was adorable. Oh, and I just want to share a fun fact. Whatever color their ears are, is the color that their eggs are. So Henny had white ears. So she has white eggs. And then there was a couple other, I can't remember their names. I'm sorry. And one had blue eggs and one had brown eggs. And I thought that was very cool. Yeah.
And the eggs are all the same inside. It felt very reflective of what we were talking about today as well.
So anyway, yeah.
So this has been a beautiful discussion. I'm so glad that we got to be part of it. And I can't wait to see what else comes from this and whatever comes next. So I just want to thank everybody for listening to today's episode of Braaains. Braaains is hosted and produced by Heather and Sarah Taylor, and our theme song is by our little brother, Depish.
If you like what you hear, please rate and review us and tell your friends to tune in. You can reach us on Instagram, TikTok, or Threads at Braaains Podcast, spelled BRAAINS Podcast. You can also visit our website, brainspodcast.com, where you can contact us, subscribe, and learn a little bit more about who we are and what we do. Until next time, I'm your host, Sarah.
And I'm your host, Heather.